New Zealand, like LA, but from originally New Zealand, which I don't know if you know this, but if you're from Australia and New Zealand, you don't like each other. Right. This is an awkward situation that's happening right now. That's why Bob's in the front, so just go with it if you can. So we have Jesse Woolston, who is an incredible artist, good friend that I met almost 4 years ago now. And I've been watching him grow and create. And Jesse, thank you. We're going in and out, we're good? Thank you for coming tonight. Jesse resides in LA. He is an incredible artist. But more than that, what people don't know, and we'll start getting into it right away, is Jesse is not just an artist in the sense of beautiful paintings that he makes. He is also an incredible musician. And let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that a passion of yours is actually creating scores of classical music, right?
Hello, is it working? Can you hear me? I think we're gonna switch. On?
Nah. Is this on? Oh, much better. Okay, good. So as I was saying, Jesse is an incredible musician who creates classical musician, like philharmonic type of style music. And I know that I want you to talk a little bit about your passion of that and how that connects to the art that you make.
I mean, okay, so growing up in New Zealand, I come from a creative family. And part of that was I was composing when I was very young. And it was basically just parents
out of the womb?
Oh no, as I was in my mum's womb, I was like, C sharp should not go to D.
Got it.
It was very much as an encouragement to explore and move out into the world through different mediums. So I was running around and doing photography and composing and then making films with tomato sauce about World War II when you were 8, which is very random, but it was very much a thing you would do. So part of that was just exploring. And then the thing that caught my eye is as I got a little bit older and I was doing these things more because I just felt like I needed to, I realized okay, wait a minute. There's people out in the world that have figured out how to quantify human emotion through music and how do you contextualize that across time. So I sat there and I was like, if I want to make art, are you telling me that I can learn a quote unquote language that will give me a foundation for this feels happy, this feels sad. If I combine both, I don't really know what I'm feeling, but that's a really strong emotion. So that really got me inspired to not necessarily learn classical music, but just have a language, some form of I know why Bach did this one thing with voice leading, or I know why Strauss, it feels massive when you look at 2001. I understand dynamics, I understand composition, emotion. So I wanted to really kind of understand and contextualize that. And then from there I was okay, this is great, but it's not enough. So I moved into visual art, okay, if I'm gonna make this music, can I visualize these feelings purely through an image or a moving image? So what happened there is I moved into film composition. And a lot of my life before the work that I'm doing now kind of became something that was a bit more prominent was I was composing for film and installation and that kind of thing while I was doing these artworks on the side. So really it was just hunger to be I want to understand human emotion, contextualize it, learn the language, and then try to wield it to create experiences that in a way it can influence how someone feels or thinks when they experience work.
When you see music notes,
yeah,
is it the same way that you see code, in a way?
It's actually far more expressive. For instance, this is something that happened to me, it was really kind of bizarre. I was talking to someone that I had chemistry with, and as they were talking, I was hearing the melody in their voice move across what they were saying. And that as a concept it's something that's a bit more expressive, it kind of feels a bit more emotional, where code to me is more execution. It's I need to build a framework or scaffolding to create a house versus the expressiveness and the dynamics you can get from a note going here or there and it kindly breaking. It's a bit more, I guess, romantic in a way. So it's programming for me is almost I'll be intellectual with my setup, and then composition is I will be expressive and romantic with my ideas of movement and sound. That makes sense.
But you have a relationship with your computer.
A very strong one, actually. That's my wife, you know?
Your wife.
Yeah.
Like
Thank you for addressing her as you should.
You're like, I don't know if you watch SpongeBob, but like Plankton has a...
Dude, come on, of course I watch SpongeBob.
Right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He has like that robot wife.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I picture
I'm
you.
Plankton, you know?
That's how I picture you talking to your computer most of the time.
I
So...
don't have one.
Go from there. So, based off of that, when you see different musical notes,
Yeah.
a lot of times like Kandinsky and other people, when they talk about colors and being able to feel things and see things, you visualize the notes itself into being actual colors, paintings, and all the time when you see that.
I mean, dude, well, here's the thing. Also, like, to me, visual art is just compositions, music composition. Like, I can look at any painting and be like, oh, I know the focal point, that's the melody line. I know the expressive, the emotional weight, this color, this form, that's the rest of the orchestra, that's harmony. Like, to me, it's really about how do you kind of capture these qualities of, like, allowing someone to tune into something specific, and then how do you support it so you create the correct context for that experience.
So when you go to, like, say, a Philharmonic and you're listening to Bach, and you close your eyes,
Yeah.
right? Are you actually seeing some visual images in your head of what you're listening to?
I usually, like, if I sit there and I'm concentrating on the music, it's tuned into the music, and then it's more like I'm figuring out everything that's happening as I'm going. However, if I'm switching then to, like, I want to understand not how it's made, but how it makes me feel, then I'll switch to, like, I'm going to be imagining and, you know, depicting what this could look like if it was, you know, an algorithm artwork or a painting or a sculpture. Like, this, to me, it's like, it's all universal language. Like, all of this to me is the same.
So if aliens came down, you would be able to talk to them?
Yeah, I'll get us all killed, but I'll try it.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that if someone like Bach was around today, that he would be creating visual art with his music? Or Mozart, or whoever it is?
I mean, I would actually think that, well, okay, look, so a lot of these composers back then, their patronage was the church. And there is something where it's like already just that baseline of like Bach writing a chorale every week for the church service. It's like, all right, already he's created something for a larger experience. I think that would probably be still a continuation with what he was doing in just different ways. For instance, now it could be for film or
Giving
it could be
them a different
anything
outlet
else.
to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you create these codes, visualize them through music. Let's talk about your obsession with the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
So music, and I can't feel this like you do. I've always said this. My biggest regret is I see a blank canvas and only see a blank canvas. My friends that are artists see things, and I can taste and feel what maybe they do, but I can't see it. You look at the ocean, and I see an ocean and it looks beautiful. The waves, the sunset, sunrise. You see code.
I see everything, man.
You see everything.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, look, so if I look at nature, obviously it's like, okay, you were born in New Zealand, that's pretty obvious, like, alright, it's a little deterministic to be like, alright, this guy clearly is going to be around nature, that's what he's going to be inspired by, but I literally, if I see the ocean...
They have kiwis there, right?
Yeah, dude, yeah, see, I was a bird, but when I got on a plane, I became a human, you know?
Right.
No, I mean, like, I look at, because of the experiences I had growing up around, like, these forces and this phenomena, when I look at the ocean, I see absolutely everything. I see beauty, I see absolute overwhelming vastness and terror. I see insane physics. I see, like, the fact that you can go to a beach and be like, this is pretty. Do you know the violence that is occurring just to be able to create like a wave? Like that's crazy. I mean, just the fact that you have like, okay, you have like tides and things like that, and you obviously have like, you know, the moon and whatnot and winds, so you have chop, but you have like general rotational force that is churning the ocean. And what happens is as the waves get closer to the shore, you have this like bank that occurs, and what happens is as you have this rotation, it hits this bank and then moves upward. So you have this elongation of this rotation, and then what happens is as it gets more and more, it becomes a wave. So purely just the interaction with the water and the earth, you have something that is in a way exploding, but it just looks beautiful.
How do you see that and then interpret that into code?
Well, I look at it as almost like an impressionist. Where it's like, okay, we have these foundations of phenomena, how things work, all this beauty, all this complexity. How do I almost bring out the qualities that I want? Do I want to invoke something more terrifying? Do I want to invoke something more beautiful? What are the elements that I want to pull from this vastness that I have in front of me? And then that is where I start my artistic process. That is why, like, for instance, if you see, like, there's a beach piece there at the back. The last time I installed that, I installed it into the largest screen in London as well as LA together. And the reason for that is what I'm actually doing is that is quote unquote beautiful, but I'm actually Trojan horsing the sublime into a space where you see that and you'll be like, oh, it's all pretty. But when it's massive, you go, this is actually anxiety inducing. It's like I'm almost using beauty and aesthetics as a means of like creating what I want people to experience, which is the honesty of nature, which is not just beauty, it's all these other things.
You want them to feel the fear of the ocean?
I think that is the most real thing when it comes to nature. Like if I were to sit here and tell everyone that like I make art based on nature, I am being dishonest and disrespectful by only choosing the aesthetical or only choosing the parts that are nice to look at. Like if I'm going to depict that, I should be respectful by way of being like, hey, the ocean's beautiful, but have you ever seen it at night with the lights off? It's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm pretty scared. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's insane, you know?
Like I go into the ocean.
It's crazy.
If I can't see my feet, I'm out.
Dude, it's nuts. Okay, meanwhile, there's also things living in there that want to eat you. Like, come on.
All the time.
This is an alien, like, you know.
I also live with 3 children. They kind of want to eat you also, so it's a little bit of a mess.
That's good.
I know there was a moment for you. Can you talk about when the Philharmonic where was it? You had your piece playing
in Melbourne.
In Melbourne. I know that was a great moment for you because it kind of put everything together of who you are, from music to art to AI and machine learning. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
I mean, like projects like that, I mean, it's the dream. Like I listened to Steve Reich when I was on my way to like classes, composition classes in my little shitty Toyota, just like, you know, running around the motorway and listening to like music for 18 musicians and just getting lost in the fact that like the musical ideas are embedded through a piece that sounds just like, you know, rhythmic rotation and just kind of repetition. But when you actually get into how the piece is built, it's this conversation between all these instruments and different ways of, you know, motifs and that kind of thing. But you get lost in a trance when you listen to it. So the fact that I was like, I love this piece, and then the fact that I was able to collaborate with an orchestra and build an experience where I understood the music. I got to sit down with one of my old composition teachers and do a full musical analysis with all the fucking writing and like break it down, note for note, section for section, read all the music, and then produce the visual art. That to me was beautiful because it was a moment where I was like, a project where I can combine the qualities I love, where if I'm going to produce an experience that is musical as well as visual, they both should be a marriage. They should be so dialed into each other. Which is why the work was a waterfall. Because throughout my entire life, I've sat in front of waterfalls in New Zealand and it felt like a trance. It felt like I can sit here for 10 hours, 3 weeks, whatever, and it will just go by like that. So the music was the same thing for me.
Excuse me, how tall was that piece?
Oh, I don't know.
How tall was the question was how tall was that piece? It was enormous.
Yeah, it was floor to ceiling. I don't remember.
Let's just say 300 feet tall.
Yeah, so it
Let's
was
just go with
French,
that.
you know?
Sounds great.
Yeah. No, it was big. Yeah.
No, we're gonna get to questions after. So, but I think that was a great question. I was just gonna go 300 feet though because it looked really tall.
Yeah, we'll say
and
that.
I have no idea how tall 300 feet is. But I know that you've done great, big sort of screens in massive areas, in airports, in philharmonics, and wherever it might be. Where do you go when you create these visual images, these beaches?
Yeah.
How big can you actually go? Like, if you had the dream, like, can you go way bigger? Can you just, like, recreate the whole entire ocean if you wanted to?
In terms of digital or just in reality?
No, well, or both.
I mean, in terms of, okay, like what is possible in terms of like my life in reality or what I would like?
Both.
Okay, so I'm limited by way of the society having kind of technology and whatnot. That's why screens now, like I'm very fortunate to be living now because screens have gotten cheaper and they're large scale. But what I am trying to capture is that quality of the sublime, and the only way that I understand as a means of capturing it is through the same okay, when I create works or when I look at installation, I have like this compass in me that goes all the way back from being a kid and standing in front of like, you know, New Zealand and seeing water smash against the rocks and it sounds like a bomb going off and you're like, this is such a profound experience. It's so terrifying but so beautiful. I like take that through all my artist practice and I use that as a guide. where I'm trying to almost like create these moments where there's this almost like complicated conflict of emotion that creates this profound effect. And what's funny is I've seen that throughout all kinds of different mediums. Like everybody knows like Clear the Loon, right? I use music.
Of course.
Yeah, the reason why that in the beginning especially, it sounds like you're floating is because there's this weird thing that happens in the beginning where there's this contention between a major and a minor scale, and it doesn't settle on the scale that you think it does until it gets further into the piece. So you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know what this is. It just feels like it doesn't really have a grounding in anywhere, but it produces this effect. And I find that to be a profound piece of music because it captures both sides. Same with like, if you know Thomas Newman, very old film composer, Shawshank Redemption, that kind of thing, the major over minor, like basically good feelings and bad feelings. All of those, that conversation, that is what I'm trying to always aim at. And I find that I'm kind of, I don't know, I feel in a way limited by way of what's available. That's why I'm trying to do more mediums.
Do you feel limited because of you're saying because of the technology that we have to show it?
Yeah, 100%.
If we had a virtual world where you could just go crazy, right? In like almost like a holodeck in Star Trek.
Like that's the goal.
Your limit would go much higher.
Oh no, I'm waiting for VR to get off its ass and be like, who wants to put like a sock on their face? Like that's so annoying, you know? Like I want someone to walk into a space and be like, this is infinity. I'm gonna fall over because I don't know which way is up.
Do you think that you could create infinity if you had the ability to?
I think so. Because there's ways of subversion. For instance, like you can make something look like, you know, I use like three-dimensional blocks a lot with my work, and it's a trick of the eye. And that is because I'm trying to contextualize phenomena and there's, you know, other ideas and whatnot. But just the pure idea of going like, all right, if I can understand the eye and what someone would quote-unquote believe, and if they can suspend that belief long enough in the right way, you can give the impression of infinity.
Do you think that you would go mad if you actually saw infinity? I know you're already crazy, but like, would you get lost in there?
I feel like anyone would, because like, it kind of breaks, here's the thing, like, I'll put it this way. You can look at the James Webb's like images and you go, that's crazy, but you can't, your brain can't wrap your head around the fact that you would never ever fit into like, I can't even explain how small we are in comparison to what you're actually looking at. So like I don't think you could even comprehend that idea. It would like, I feel like if your feet can touch the ground, you're screwed.
So is that what fascinates you by the ocean, that you're so small and the ocean is pretty much the largest thing in the world that we have basically not even researched?
Yeah, that's the quality of the sublime. Is like there's this quality of like seeing something so overwhelmingly massive that you're so small, but also you know that you're somewhat safe. There's like it's a combination of like beauty, smallness, but also a bit of terror and a bit of awe. It's like okay, like God is a thing. Like that's people, you know, religion, all that kind of stuff. Massive, larger than you, something that is bigger than, or, you know, the supernatural. Like all these kind of, you know, themes in religion that kind of speaks to that same kind of idea of something enormous and much larger than what you can experience.
Is this what scares you about being in a relationship with